So in a purely rational world, persuasive advertising doesn't really have a role, right? If you lie about your product, people are going to see that. They're not going to reward you, and your sales are just going to be lower. So what we want to think about is, all right, well, why do we see so much persuasive advertising? And sort of behavioral economics and the even newer field of neuroeconomics are helping provide us with some of those answers. And so this is just one study where they did blind taste tests on beer and found that consumers' evaluation of quality was higher when they were told that it was higher quality before the consumption. So when they believe, so if you say, all right, here's a good beer, people drank it, they're like, oh yeah, that is good beer. And if here's a bad beer, oh yeah, that is a bad beer. But they couldn't tell, when if they weren't told, right? If it was a blind taste test. And so the idea, is consistent with Preston's idea that advertising basically increases people's view of the quality over time. So if you keep saying, oh, this product's good, this product's good, this product's good, this product's good, people are like, oh yeah, that is good. So if we think about that in terms of name brands and quality, right, then name brands are all about trying to increase your view of it. Now, so the sort of rational viewpoint that Klein and Leffler argue is that the lower quality or fly-by-night producers, if they tout quality, then they're not going to get repeat customers, right? And so this is similar to the sort of signaling idea that we talked about before. And so consumers come to trust well-established brands that are heavily advertised, especially with things like money-back guarantees. Because the lower quality ones would go out of business if they tried to do that as well. So we talked a little bit about subjective differentiation on the sort of vertical axis when we talked about Bayer aspirin and Clorox bleach. We can also think about it on the horizontal axis with things like Coke and Pepsi. And so if we want to think about why they do this, I think we want to go back to the Bertrand model where, these companies are really competing on price. And if they are viewed as identical, then consumers are just going to buy whatever is cheaper. And you're going to get the Bertrand paradox where price equals marginal cost, and they don't make any profit. But if they can differentiate themselves horizontally, then they might be able to break that Bertrand paradox and price above marginal cost and earn some profits. And so the way they do that is by having sort of different advertising strategies, right? If they advertise that, hey, if they advertise exactly the same brand image, that's not going to be successful. And so Coke tends to focus more on sort of families, traditional values, holidays, and Pepsi tends to focus more on, younger consumers. And so if this can create some subjective horizontal differentiation, then that dampens price competition. And I think that's a common thing. If we think about neuroscience and product image, so basically what neuroeconomics does is put people into functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, and see sort of which parts of the brain are activated when they are experiencing those products. And so consumers who drank Coke received greater pleasure or utility when they were informed they were drinking Coke than when they were just drinking a cola that they didn't know whether it was Coke or Pepsi or some other brand. And so this is, basically saying, if I think this product that I'm experiencing is good, is high quality, then I will enjoy it more. And so then, this is going to be really important for our models of advertising, because one argument about advertising is that it's good just because it convinces consumers that the products are good. And if consumers are convinced that the products are good, then they will enjoy it more. And if you enjoy it more, who's to say whether that's good or bad? So I think that's very interesting. And there were also similar results for beer and coffee, and consumers receiving greater utility from the emotional side of the brain when they know that they are consuming their favorite brand. So if I prefer Coke to Pepsi and I'm told this is Coke, I'm going to enjoy that more than if I'm told, hey, this could be Coke, it could be Pepsi, it could be Stop and Shop brand. Also, we want to think about the different types of goods, right? So different types of goods will be advertised differently. And so one thing to note is that a lot of wholesale goods, goods that are sold to firms or producers, are not advertised very much. And so usually they will rely on a sales team, and the sales team will go out and talk to individual firms, customers, in order to sell those. Mostly consumer goods that are meant to that you want to sell to a large number of consumers get a lot of the advertising dollars. So if we think about some different types of goods, right? We talked about search goods, experience goods, and credence goods. So search goods are ones where you can sort of find out all the information about it. And so informative advertising is going to be more likely for search goods, because if you try to use persuasive advertising and you lie about or exaggerate the goods quality or technical specifications, consumers are going to find that out that's not true before they purchase. For experience goods, though, consumers might be able to be fooled, right? Because, all right, come on this cruise, it's awesome. You buy the ticket and then you go and you're like, oh, that wasn't that good, right? But you bought the ticket. And so this could be true for any good that needs to be experienced, whether it's, hotels or Airbnb or anything, or, concerts. And then credence goods are going to be especially susceptible to persuasive advertising. Remember, credence goods are goods that you don't know whether it was good even after you used it. And so these will be goods that might need to be more heavily regulated. And so finally, we want to think about the sort of implications for advertising intensity. First, we would expect more advertising in consumer goods, and we definitely saw that in the data in the first video for this chapter. We also might expect firms to spend less on advertising of search goods. I think that's probably true. I mean, the ones that we saw at the top of the list were liquor and cosmetics and, shoes, especially sneakers. And so those are probably more on the sort of experience versus and credence goods than on the search goods. And then investment in advertising will be high when product image is important, right? And so certainly things like perfume, all types of sort of alcohol, those are important when for product image, because especially if there's not a huge difference between the goods, you're selling your image as much as you are selling the good.